Hello, welcome back to the Quilt Doc. I'm Andy Wigginton, and this is our first ever shop show. Quilt Doc shop shows are where we film from a local quilt store, sharing what we do in the classroom with the online community. Today's shop show is sponsored by SewJersey, my local quilt shop. SewJersey has everything you need to make your next sewing project come to life. SewJersey is New Jersey's premier quilt shop, with over 6,000 square feet full of everything a quilter needs, including over 3,000 bolts of fabric to add to your stash. My favorite thing about SewJersey is the Moda color wall that includes every single color of Moda Bella Solids and Moda Grunge fabric, which is always being replenished and added to as new colors come in. SewJersey is an authorized service center for sewing machines and an award-winning dealer of Brother, Janome, Bernina, Necchi, and Elna sewing machines. Drop off your machine for its annual tune-up. The on-site technicians will get you back up and sewing in no time. When your quilt is finished, you can drop off a quilt to the new Long Arm Studio or rent time on a long arm machine and learn how to do it yourself. SewJersey is conveniently located on Route 10 in East Hanover, New Jersey. Now, one of the things that I love about SewJersey are the sewing clubs. They meet several times a week. I run the brunch club, which meets on Friday mornings from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. At these clubs, you bring whatever you're working on or an idea for what you'd like to work on, and together with somebody like me or another SewJersey expert, your ideas become a reality. Some folks come every week for coaching, some drop in when they need a little extra help on a tricky project or would just like some motivation to get a big project accomplished. I can tell you it's so much fun, and we always pick up a new tip or trick and make some new friends at the same time. If you'd like to join us for a drop-in club or for a filming of our next shop show at SewJersey, please shoot us an email at the address or stop by the store. In today's shop show, we'll be learning new ways to make half-square triangles, which we need for our first ever challenge quilt, which is called Cerulean Sky. But before we do that, we're going to head on over to SewJersey, where Jackie is going to show us all the new features of the Janome HD9 heavy-duty sewing machine. Through the magic of YouTube, here we go.
So Janome just came out with this machine. It's a high-speed straight stitch machine, but you can still free motion quilt on it. The feed dogs do not drop on these types of machines. You get an extra high needle plate and then a darting foot, okay? The cool thing about this machine is you've got 9 inches, it's high speed, so it's 1,600 stitches, and then you get 11 pounds of presser foot pressure, which is huge, but the other thing is you get a really fast scissor cut as well. So what's really great about this is this machine has 8 ball bearings inside instead of sleeve bearings. So what does that actually mean, right? So this is the sleeve bearing, okay? So it kind of jiggles, something like that. This is a ball bearing, so you can see it's much smoother, right? So Janome took 8 ball bearings and put that inside of this machine. So what you get is a heavy-duty, strong machine, all metal, right? But then it's a lot smoother because they incorporated ball bearings instead of sleeve bearings. So that's what makes it really unique.
We've all sewn on a cheat machine, right? Where it feels like everything is moving underneath your feet, or you put too many layers under there and it starts to want to play one way or the other. This machine, because the pressure is pushing everything down, and then the ball bearings underneath are making sure that everything's really, all that power is getting to where it needs to go, you don't have any of those problems.
Thanks, Jackie. That Janome sewing machine is awesome, isn't it? I love Janome sewing machines. I have one in my studio. I'm working on it right now to finish up our first ever Block of the Month project, which is called the Cerulean Sky. If you'd like to participate in this free project, you can look at the link down below for all of the information. You can win some prizes too. The essential part of the Cerulean Sky project is half-square triangles. Now, whether you've never made a half-square triangle in your life, or you're just bored of making them over and over and over the same way, stay tuned and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for how you can make your half-square triangles more efficiently and faster. Come on over to the cutting table. So this is a half-square triangle. We've all seen these before. There are a lot of ways to make them. The simplest way to make one is to take a square fabric, layer it with another, cut it in half, and sew them back together. With half square triangles, it's really important to remember that you're dealing with an unstable edge or a bias edge, so be gentle when sewing so you don't distort your pieces. Because it's so easy to distort these pieces, I like to finger press, or if I have a lot to make, I like to use one of these rolling irons before I press. Get all your pieces ready with the dark side on top, gently open them up, making sure that you don't have any tucks. Then you're ready to press it with the roller, then with the iron, then you're ready to cut down to the size you need. Really doing all these steps will ensure that you get the best result. Another way to make half square triangles is to use a die cutter. Layer your dark fabric on top of your light fabric. This die will precision cut up to 8 layers of fabric at a time. If you're careful when you remove the die from the cutter, you'll have all your fabrics ready to sew. Now, the trick with the die cut half square triangles is that you have to be very precise with your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, unless you're super confident in your precision piecing skills, I would encourage my students to pick a larger size die and then cut them down at the end to the exact size that you need after sewing. Use your roller or finger press and then trim as before. Now, both of these methods are pretty good if you only have a few half square triangles to make, but depending on your die system or your level of ability, you might end up with a lot of wasted fabric. I usually use pre-cut fabrics to make my half square triangles. They've already trimmed the fabric to a manageable size, and you can trim down to the size you need when you're finished. I'm going to demonstrate here with 5-inch squares from a charm pack. Grab your straight edge ruler and a friction pen and draw a line corner to corner. We're going to sew a scant 1/4 inch on either side of the line. If you don't want to draw on your fabric, you can use painter's tape. Place your tape a 1/4 inch away from your needle and extend it to the edge of your desk. Then when you're sewing, line up the point of your square with the edge of the tape, and you'll have a perfectly straight 1/4 inch seam. Watch down at the bottom, not up at the needle. Once you've done one side, flip it around and do the other side, keeping your eye down at the bottom instead of watching the needle at the top. This is a real time saver. Then either set your seam with the iron or with the rolling iron, cut between the lines, and you've got 2 half square triangles for the price of 1. If you don't want to use painter's tape, or if you're just starting out, I often recommend that beginners use the Fons & Porter 1/4 inch ruler. You put the ruler in the corner of your square and draw your line on either side of the ruler. Then you stitch on the lines and cut between the lines. When I make half square triangles, I usually make a whole bunch of them. So minimizing waste can be really helpful. One way to minimize waste is to use triangle paper. Moda cake mixes and cupcake mixes are triangle papers made for pre-cuts, and there's a whole book of patterns out there to use up those triangles. I participate in half square triangle swaps, where groups of my friends get together, we also have square triangles from our scraps, and then we swap them with one another to give our quilts extra scrappy looks. Your local quilt store will have many different brands of triangle paper. Try them all out, see which ones work best for you. They also have these books that have all different ways to use your triangles once you've made them. Usually they're linked to the triangle paper, making the math easy. If you can't find the right size that you're looking for, search online for the half square triangle unit size that you need. Then it's just as simple as printing out as many as you need for your pattern and get to work. Once you've acquired your triangle papers, you just lay your paper on top of your 2 pieces of fabric, trim the fabric to the size of the paper. Be careful not to cut off your seam allowance. Most papers out there have the allowance marked for you, as this one does. Then you're going to pop some pins in. This paper even has pin placement marked for you so that you don't have to stop and pull pins while sewing. Flathead pins work best for this as they don't distort the paper. Then it's as simple as sewing on the dotted line. To make paper removal easier, shorten up your stitch length.
I'm using a stitch length of about 2 stitches to the inch. The extra holes perforate the paper, making it easier to remove later. Some triangle paper will have you sew continuously, but others, like this one, requires you to break threads and start again. Just follow the arrows and follow the directions on your paper and you'll be fine. Once you've done all the sewing, remove the pins and then cut on the cut lines with your rotary cutter and ruler. If you don't like using the rotary cutter, you can also cut on the lines with scissors. This is a great way for kids to participate safely, and it's a great way for them to practice sewing on a straight line. Once you've got them all cut, you'll have perfect half square triangles that don't need any further trimming. Leave the papers on until just before you're ready to sew them into your blocks, as the paper helps to stabilize the bias edge and will prevent any stretching or distortion. Another great way to make a bunch of half square triangles in a hurry is the Easy 8 method, which starts with 2 squares of any size. They have to be the same size. I'm using 2 layer cake squares in this example. You put them together like this and draw lines from corner to corner. You can also use press lines from corner to corner if you prefer, but the line will be on the inside of the quilt at the end, so it doesn't really matter. After that, sew on either side of the line, then sew on either side of the other line and cut between them. Cut once in the middle, cut again in the middle, and you've got 8 half square triangles made in one go. There are many specialized rulers you can use to trim them down to size. If you only have a few to make, you can just use your trusty square ruler. Now my pattern calls for 3-inch unfinished half square triangles. So, place your diagonal line along the fold in your block, the 45-degree line. Find your 3-inch mark and make sure that you have a little block sticking past the 3-inch on both the top and on the bottom. Then make your first cut. Once you've made your first cut, rotate your block 90 degrees. This time, line up your diagonal line first and then put your block exactly on the 3-inch lines, trimming away any excess. You're left with a perfect 3-inch square ready to put into your quilt. Another way to do this is to use the triangle trimmer tool. This is a ruler that gets a lot of use in my studio because it saves 2 steps. Before you open your half square triangles up, you take this guy, line them up along the seam line where indicated. In my case, that's the 3-inch line, and cut. Then you use the little notches to trim away the dog ears. When you open it up, it's all trimmed and you don't have to turn it. Pretty cool, huh? As you can see, I use painter's tape for everything. Put a piece of painter's tape along the diagonal line of your ruler, the 45-degree line of your ruler. Build it up with several pieces. Now, I'm not being as careful as I would be if I were doing this for real, as you want your tape to be stacked up one piece exactly on top of the other. Once you have a pretty thick line of tape, you're ready to trim. What's nice about the thick tape is that it grabs the fold of your half square triangle, so you can focus on lining up your block to the measurement that you need for trimming. I find this especially helpful when trimming odd-sized blocks because having the tape bump takes away one of the variables so I can focus on lining up my block exactly to size.
You can make an entire quilt out of half square triangles. I often will take a 10-inch layer cake of print along with a 10-inch layer cake of solid, sew them together into half square triangles, play around with their placement, and you've got a quilt done in no time.
Be sure to follow the Quilt Doc half square triangle boards on Pinterest. You can make half square triangle samplers, scrappy quilts from swaps with your friends, or make supersized half square triangle blocks for a modern last-minute gift. Throw on a couple of borders and you have an entire top pieced in no time. This quilt I made last year at Christmas was entirely pieced from pre-cuts in about 2 hours. Let's head back over to SewJersey to see some of our Quilt Doc students working on half square triangles. As part of this series, we'll be showcasing your quilts in any stage of construction. Whether you have questions about next steps or you want to share your work with our Quilt Doc community, we'd love to have you join us for a taping. This month, Sam Linehan and Marion Schmidt were kind enough to share 2 beautiful quilts that they're working on. Let's head on over and check them out now.
So, can you see the heart?
So how long did it take?
Well, I mean, she put the challenge up last February, so, but I, did some and then put it away for a long time. So the blocks go pretty fast once you figure out how to do it.
Did you have to worry about were there a lot of corners to match, or did you not worry so much?
No, there's not a lot of corners to match, and if you look carefully, there's half square triangles right here. They're on the end of a strip, but that's what makes the heart, is the little half square triangle.
And that's lovely because with the log cabins you don't have to stop, right? You can just keep going.
Yeah, that's great.
Well done, good job. It's really beautiful.
My name is Marion Schmidt. This is a foundation paper pieced square. We just pretty much made 4 panels and then they'll be sewn together, and then added a little bit more to it so that it'll finish size will be about 90 by 92 inches for her bed. Lauren decided she wanted blue, greens, and yellows. So that was our start. And we came here to the store and just, I like this. There's a lot of cafe in there.
These little tiny pieces, are they the little tiny ones? Are they any more difficult than any other paper piecing?
No, they really aren't. I mean, it's nice because they go quicker because they're
Right.
so little, and so I can bang out quite a few of them.
People forget about that. They see all the little ones and they think that they're so scary, but really they go pretty fast, don't they?
They do.
A lot of folks think they need a design wall, like to plan this all out.
I definitely
And I think
didn't do that.
If you can do each block at a time and then put the blocks together, that makes it easier.
It does, but there were so many blocks. This time what I truly tried to do was make it random. So I put each side in a bag, and as I need it, I just try to grab. And the only time I put it back is if the one next to it has the outside fabric exactly the same. But otherwise I've been trying to, and inevitably there's the same fabric within a very small area of one another, but that's random.
But no one notices unless you point it out.
No,
True.
I think it looks magnificent, and I love it. I think this is needs to go to a show before it goes to a bed. Other people need to see this hard work. It's really quite stunning.
That'll about do it for today's episode of the Quilt Doc. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and give a special thanks to SewJersey for being the sponsor of today's show. If you're in the area, you should definitely stop by and check it out. And if you'd like to come to one of the clubs, you can sign up online. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Until next time, the best way to sew better today is to be positive. Thanks again. No time flat, easy peasy. Super good. It's a great quilt. It's all half-square triangles. I'm a genius. I'd like to give a special thanks to the gals over, I can't say the gals. Who am I, 1952?